Well, a new NBC survey finds former President Trump's lead is growing in the upcoming election. 51% of GOP primary voters say that they will vote for Trump. He is their first choice if the primary election was held today. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is now at 22%. Back in April, that same survey showed Trump at 46% and DeSantis at 31%. Joining me right now is civil rights attorney, talk radio host, and Fox News contributor Leo Terrell, along with 32 Advisors, founder and CEO and former economic advisor to President Obama, Robert Wolf, back with us. He's also a Fox News contributor. Gentlemen, it's great to see you both. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back to the program, Robert. Love to have you this morning. Leo, always a pleasure. Let's talk first about this lead by President Trump. Leo, what do you think's behind it?
Well, thank you for having me, Maria. It's very simple. President Trump is running on his record. And if you look at what he accomplished in 4 years, more than any president, in my opinion, in the last 50 years, the Republican voters get it. And if you look at his opponents within the nomination, they're trying to run on his record, but they're saying vote for them instead of Trump. America, the Republican Party wants to vote for Trump, and he's going to win the nomination, Maria. And I'll sit here and tell you honestly and truly, there are certain people who are running within the Republican Party to try to stop Trump. I don't want to mention any names. Chris Christie. He has no chance to winning, but there are basically Republicans basically articulating Democratic talking points trying to hurt Trump. It's not going to happen. Trump is going to win the nomination.
Yeah, but I thought the more people in the primary, it actually favors Trump. Why do you think Chris Christie's efforts are actually going to work against that?
Because Chris Christie, Maria, has absolutely no intention on becoming president. He's in the race solely to try to hurt Trump. That will fail. And you look at that poll that you just identified, you don't see Christie's name on there at all. I agree with the concept that more candidates running in the nomination helps Trump. But what I'm saying, in the long run, it's all over. Game's over. Trump is going to get the nomination.
Well, he'll get the nomination, but can he win the election? Robert, weigh in.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Leo said. I mean, first, DeSantis is just not resonating with the GOP. He feels like, in my opinion, he's got a glass chin. He hasn't been able to really combat against Trump in any which way. And the rest of the individuals running outside of Christie feels like they're running for vice president. So no one's chipping away. You have to get through Trump to get to Biden. So the idea that they're all challenging Biden, they're not going to be on the stage to challenge him. Number two, we should remember, as you know, Maria, I mean, Trump, former President Trump had near 80 million votes. He owns the airwaves in the GOP. You wake up to him, you go to sleep to him. And so, in my opinion, especially the way the primaries have changed within the Republican Party, where a plurality wins. You don't need a majority. Winner takes all. Unlike on the Democratic side, where it's pro rata, as long as there's this many people running, it's Trump's to lose, and I don't see that happening. With respect to the general election, sorry.
No, please continue.
With respect to the general election, I mean, listen, it says Biden's up a few points. He's gaining in independence. But remember, we started 45-45, and then everyone fights for the last 10%. These polls are going to go up and down for the next couple of years. And at the end of the day, it's going to be within, 5 points one way or the other. I think Biden's going to have wind in his back with the economy. My guess is Leo disagrees.
Yeah, but let me get your take, Robert, on why the Democrats won't allow any competition. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is doing well. He's rising in the polls. We had Marianne Williamson on this program last week. They want to debate President Biden, but the Democrat leadership will not allow any primary debates. Why not?
Yeah, so, I mean, I know Robert F. Kennedy. I was named after his father. I'm Robert, my brother's John, and I used to be vice chairman of the Robert F. Kennedy Center. This is not about Robert F. Kennedy. An incumbent, whether Republican or Democrat, they're not going to go on the debate stage. That doesn't happen. It didn't happen in the past. It's not going to happen in the future. When you take the field versus Biden, someone's going to get 1 in 4 votes. I think that this is a non-event. The truth is the Democratic Party is not even talking about Robert F. Kennedy or Marianne Williamson. It's much more of the conservative and the GOP talking about him. In my opinion, the way he's running, he probably should run in the field of the GOP party.
Well, I mean, maybe the Democrats aren't talking about it, but voters are talking about him. He's rising in the polls, and it just feels like when you look at fairness, I mean, the same thing happened in 2016, right? The Democrats wanted Hillary Clinton, so they blew off Bernie Sanders. Why shoe in one candidate before the public can actually make a decision?
Well, when there's an incumbent, that's the incumbent's the president. He's not candidate. Leo, go ahead, please.
No, please, no. I can tell you right now, Maria, look, the fix is in. The decision not to debate is basically a Democratic decision with the inside the Beltway Washington Democratic donors. They've already made a decision. They've already crowned Joe Biden as the nominee. And what's going to bring him down, what can bring him down, is the Hunter Biden-Joe Biden fiasco. That is the situation that could end up Joe Biden becoming the LBJ 1968 version and dropping out. Joe Biden is leaking water basically due to his association with China, Hunter Biden. And let me tell you right now, Joe Biden is not running on his record. He's running away from his record.
Yeah. Robert, what about that? Are the Democrats afraid of this influence peddling scandal?
Zero. Hunter Biden's a non-event to the 2024 election. I mean, I know it's good fodder, and but people don't care about it. They care about the economy. They care about inflation. They care about geopolitical risk. They're not talking about Hunter Biden. I know that on Fox it's a big story, but it's not within the party, and I don't think it's what everyday Americans care about.
I'm not so sure about that, because corruption has become basically visually in plain sight, and I think that's one of the reasons that Trump is in the lead, don't you think?
He's not in the lead. Your poll today had Biden up 4% and dominating the independent vote. I think it was 47 to 33. So he's not in the lead today.
Well, he's in the lead in GOP is what I'm talking about. He's the number one, and he's outsized numbers relative to Ron DeSantis.
I agree that Trump will be the nominee.
You do?
Yeah. And if I can add, Maria, briefly, everyone in this country knows darn well that the Department of Justice, the FBI, are basically agents of the Democratic Party. Basically, what you have right now is a two-tier system. And these indictments, these impeachment against Trump, the Republican Party will not accept that. They realize it is a double standard, one for President Trump and something else for the Democratic Party. If you're a Democrat, you do not get convicted. You do not get charged. And the American public sees that. And I disagree on one aspect. Besides Fox, besides your program, Maria, the mainstream media will block covering this, but it's leaking out. And the American people recognize the double standard.
Robert, do you think there's a double standard in terms of our justice system?
I don't, because the judge in the Hunter Biden case was a Republican. He was actually nominated by President Trump. I think that we have a justice system. I believe it's been fair and just. I'm sure that you can take a ton of differences on each side of the aisle where people will argue it hasn't been. But in my opinion, I support the Department of Justice and the FBI and the police, and I think we need to continue with the rule of law.
Do you think that Hillary Clinton was put above the law?
I don't, but I'm not as close to it, back then as I probably should have been. I remember when she was spending 12 hours in a Benghazi testimony, and McCarthy said it was just political. So listen, for everyone, you go left, I could go right, you go right, I go left. We have instances on every side that has made this country so polarizing. I'm trying to stay in the middle.
Yeah, well, the Russia collusion lie certainly ripped the country apart. That's for sure. And there hasn't been a lot of accountability. Leo, go ahead. You've been trying to get in. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
No problem, Maria, because thank you for bringing up the Hillary Clinton situation. And Robert, let me just tell you right now, we could sit down and have coffee with Maria, and we could talk about the server in her basement, the 30,000 documents that she bleached out, smashing the BlackBerries. Come on, Robert. Let's be upfront and honest with the viewers. And what we're knowing for a fact is that Hillary Clinton had basically charges of holding classified documents, and she walked away completely exonerated and no coverage on that. That's a double standard.
Final
Under
word, Robert.
President Trump's administration, they investigated it. It was an Attorney General Sessions under his administration. I'm confused that you guys are putting this on the Democrats. He was the president during that time.
All right. We will leave it there. Leo Terrell, Robert Wolf, great
Always
conversation,
fun.
guys. Thanks very much.